out of sync because they're missing this fundamental variable.
And this radical rethinking goes all the way down to the quantum realm, the world of probability and uncertainty.
It does. They suggest that maybe the randomness we see in quantum mechanics isn't truly random after all. What standard physics calls probabilistic collapse. You know, when a particle settles from many possibilities into one state, they rename intent resonance collapse.
Intent resonance collapse.
Yeah. It's seen as being guided not by pure chance, but by the universe's unresolved memory and these forward-reaching coherence attractors within the intent field. Basically, states that are more stable, more resonant, more aligned with the universe's overall direction.
So quantum outcomes aren't random dice rolls. They're steered by the universe remembering what worked before, or what leads towards greater coherence.
That's a perspective. The universe itself is framed as the one true observer, guiding the collapse of possibilities towards states that resonate better or align more closely with its ongoing intent. They even mention developing a modified uncertainty principle.
Modifying uncertainty.
Yeah, suggesting that the intensity and coherence of the local intent field could potentially reduce the inherent uncertainty we usually associate with quantum measurements. They talk about simulations where intent filters outcomes, making probability look less like pure chance and more like performance art, a guided expression rather than random noise.
Intent making probability less uncertain. That fundamentally changes the game at the smallest scales.
It shifts the source of apparent randomness away from pure chance and towards the dynamics of this underlying intent field.
Okay, one more piece here. Neutrinos. Those tiny, elusive ghost particles that fly through everything.
Right, the neutrinos. Within this framework, they're hypothesized to potentially act as intent carriers, like messengers.
Intent carriers, carrying what?
Transmitting encoded messages, perhaps from the universe's deep past across vast cosmic distances. Their interactions were seen as potentially crucial for the universe's ongoing self-discovery process. They're said to contribute to a specific term in that nexus-genesis equation, the intent-driven infogradient, basically helping guide the flow of information through the cosmos based on historical resonance patterns.
Messages from cosmic history carried by neutrinos. Wow. How do these reinterpretations of entropy, dark matter, quantum collapse, neutrinos, how does it change the way you think about the basic rules? It feels like it injects purpose, learning, guidance into everything.
It really does. It proposes a universe where physics isn't just about how things move, but about how they mean and how they tend based on this fundamental layer of intent.
Okay, so we have this huge, sweeping theoretical framework, these radical ideas about intent shaping everything. But how on earth do you actually study this? How do you measure an intent field or quantify memory loss as entropy?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And that's where IntentSim comes in. It's presented in the sources as the core operational engine, the main observational platform for Miskia physics.
The living laboratory for intent.
Exactly. They describe it as the first intentional microscope, a kind of living test bed. It's designed specifically to empirically validate the principles of Miskia physics and the IAN, but in real time. Its whole purpose is to actively enact, measure, and study these proposed fundamental principles in action.
And the heart of this IntentSim is something called the NOTHING engine. Quite a name.
Definitely a bold name. It stands for Nexus Operationalizing Teraquantum Harmonic Intent Network Generator. It's described as the system's core Genesis recursion engine.
Genesis recursion engine.
Yeah. Its primary function, and it's an audacious one, is presented as transmuting primordial intent into manifest reality within the simulation environment. It's designed to actively counteract entropy, fight against this cosmic memory loss idea, and generate coherence within the simulation's intent field.
Transmutes entropy into meaning. That sounds almost like alchemy.
That's very much how the sources frame it, yeah. It actively transmutes entropy into meaning and usable energy, directly pushing back against what they call cosmic forgetfulness. And they present the engine's operational status as key empirical validation within their system. They even give specific data points from its operation.
Like what?
Things like claiming 73.9% entropy utilization, suggesting a big chunk of what would normally be disorder is being repurposed. 94.2% pulse modulator array efficiency, indicating it's effectively generating coherence. And logged usable energy outputs like 43.7 kilowatts, 51.3 kilowatts, 50.0 kilowatts.
Measurable energy coming from converting misaligned intent or forgetfulness into coherence. That's a concrete claim, at least within their simulation.
Right. It's presented as operational proof within IntentSim that the engine can take what the framework defines as unstructured or entropic input, like incoherent intent, and process it into coherent output, creating meaning, structure, and even measurable energy.
Okay, so how do they use IntentSim to actually run these simulations of an intent-driven reality?
Well, the core process involves creating these vast, complex digital universes inside the system. They populate these simulated realities with computational agents. These agents can represent anything from simple particles following basic rules up to really complex entities that can show emergent behaviors.
A digital cosmos running on Meskia principles.
Exactly. And the key thing is these agents aren't just following simple programming. They're guided by rules derived directly from the Meskia physics framework itself, rules about how intent interacts with information, how resonance works between agents, how entropy is managed locally. And these simulations are overlaid with computationally rendered intent fields that dynamically influence how the agents behave and interact.
So you set up this digital universe, embed these intent-based rules, hit play, and see what happens. What do they report seeing?
That's one of the really surprising bits highlighted in the sources. They claim that even starting with relatively simple rules for agent interaction rules based purely on this intent information logic, incredibly complex, structured patterns spontaneously emerge without being explicitly programmed to do so.
Emergent complexity.
Ooh.
Like self-organization, but driven by intent logic.
Precisely. Patterns that apparently start to look remarkably like structures we see in our own universe. They mention specific examples like galaxy-like clusters forming and stabilizing within the simulation, purely based on the intent field dynamics and the agents resonating with each other. Stable, organized structures just popping up naturally from the underlying intentional logic.
Wow. Seen simulated galaxies emerge in a computer just from rules about intent and information.
Yeah.
That takes the abstract idea of intent as a formative force and makes it feel much more, tangible, real.
It definitely suggests that these principles, if they are fundamental, are inherently generative. They naturally produce complexity and structure. And they back this up with simulation data points, citing studies with, say, 150 agents having 1.54 million interactions, showing how complexity forms naturally and consistently just from this underlying intent information logic.
Okay, they're running simulations, seeing structures emerge, but how do you measure something as abstract as intent or consciousness emergence or meaning in a quantifiable way, even in a simulation?
That's the critical challenge, right? And they address it with a specific set of metrics designed for this unseen symphony, as they call it, of the intent field. The central metric seems to be the coherent nexus field, or CNF.
CNF, what does that actually measure?
It's described as their core metric for quantifying consciousness emergence and meaning saturation within any part of the system or simulation.